Praise the Lord. Dear friends, Book of Wisdom, chapter 9, various verses. This is a prayer for wisdom, for knowledge, for guidance. We had been going through the Bible and introducing the books of the Bible, and we have said the Old Testament can be divided into three groups of books: the historical books, the prophetic books, and the wisdom books. We have already gone through the historical and prophetic books. Today, I would like to focus our attention on the wisdom books. 6 books of the Old Testament are known as wisdom books. They are the books of Job, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes or Kohelet, Song of Songs, Wisdom of Solomon, and Ecclesiasticus or Sirach. 2 books, Ecclesiastes and Ecclesiasticus, have 2 names. Ecclesiastes is called Kohelet also, and Ecclesiasticus is also called Sirach. So these 6 books are usually called wisdom books. Some of the Bible students and Bible scholars consider also the Psalms as part of the wisdom books. In that case, there will be 7 rather than 6 books of wisdom. But Psalms are a literature of a different category, a category apart. These are hymns, songs, or prayer songs. And in the context of prayer, the Psalms bring out a lot of reflections of the nature of wisdom. So we have a category of Psalms called wisdom Psalms. So either we take the entire collection of 150 Psalms as part of the wisdom book, wisdom literature, or take only the Psalms as part of this literature. So there could be a difference of number concerning the books of wisdom, either 6 or including Psalms 7. So the 7 books of the Bible are called wisdom books. Now, before we come to the specific books as such, it's good to keep in mind what the Bible means when it speaks about wisdom and wise men. And when is the time of this, or the wisdom literature as such. We know wisdom and wise men, this is a kind of general phenomenon, not restricted to the people of Israel or to the biblical literature. All over the world, all through the history of humanity, there had been wise men. Some people among the crowd stand out because of their knowledge, because of their understanding, because of their prudence, and their ability to work, ability to give advice to others, ability to construct the community or the sort. So in every community and every village, there are some people called the wise men. And that is normal in every race, every nation, and every age. The sayings of these sages are being collected, and they becomes the proverbs of the nation or proverb of the people. And such proverbs somehow express the understanding that people have about God, about life, about the world, about the human nature, and all sorts of spheres of life. The proverbs express the wisdom of the people. And it is enough to examine the proverbs, some of the proverbs, to see how a people think. What is their picture of life? What is their expectation of life? What do they believe? And such things come from the proverbial expressions. Proverbs are being created through the experience of generations. Someone initially utters a saying that expresses a certain mentality, certain realization, finding of truth, and that particular saying is being repeated, transmitted from generation to generation, and such pithy sayings form the nucleus of the wisdom literature. So wise men and wisdom literature is not exclusive to the people of Israel, not to the biblical literature. It is a general phenomenon of the entire world and entire universe. And when we speak about wisdom, first of all, wisdom is considered as a practical knowledge, practical ability to organize life, to create something, to produce something. The wisdom as far as the agriculture is concerned, how to cultivate a land, what type of seeds to sow, and how to cultivate trees or whatever. The wisdom of the farmers, the wisdom of the artisans, people who make handicrafts, goldsmiths or blacksmiths, all sorts of handicraft works are also expressions of wisdom. So a person who is competent in making a good house, a carpenter, a mason, a builder, all these people who are experts in their trade, they are also called wise men. Now we come to the biblical wise men and wisdom tradition. We come to a different stage, a stage that comes after the time of prophets and after prophetic literature. While speaking about the prophets, we saw prophets are men or women, elected, chosen by God, purified of their sins, anointed by the Spirit, equipped with the word, and sent out to preach. The prophets are spokespersons of God, and they were calling the people to conversion. And the call to conversion was based on the fact of the covenant. So the prophets are explicitly and primarily spokespersons or guardians and custodians of the covenant. So they invite the people to return to the original fidelity, return to the promise they have made with God in entering the covenant, and to obey the stipulations of the covenant, the demands of the covenant. So prophets base themselves on the covenant and covenantal fidelity and covenantal commandments. And they were asking or calling the people to conversion, and through conversion return to God, and they will be blessed by God. Now, the wise men are not so much concerned with the covenant. And this is not explicitly an Israelite movement either, as we have already seen. Every nation has their own wise men, and the people of Israel also learned their wisdom also from outside of their people or their nation. For example, when they were in Egypt, they learned the wisdom of Egyptians. When they came to Canaan, it is from the Canaanites, they learned how to cultivate the land. And there were wise men from all over the world from whom they could get their wisdom. And especially through the coming of the Hellenization, the Greek wisdom, the wisdom movement in Israel became strong, and the wisdom literature also was enlarged by this contact with the Hellenistic civilization. What do the wise men tell the people? The wise men tell the people how to succeed in life, how one can lead a successful life, a life that is fruitful, a life that is meaningful, a life that makes one happy. So it is an advice, it is an art of living, so to say, an art of living a happy life. That is what the wise men give advice to. Now coming to the wisdom as such in the Old Testament, first we look at the word that is being translated as wisdom. In the Hebrew language, the word is hakam. Hakam is to be wise, to be prudent, and the noun is hokmah. Hokmah is wisdom. And the wisdom can be expressed in various ways. For example, being skillful in technical works and handicrafts, masonry, etc. is called hokmah, is called wisdom and expertise. For example, in the book of Exodus chapter 28, verse 3, we have this. Moses is being asked to employ people for various achievements, various things to make. Now it is said, you shall speak to all who have ability, whom I have endowed with skill, that they make Aaron's vestments to consecrate him for my priesthood. So the skill, the word that is being translated as skill, in the Hebrew it is hokmah. So wisdom can be considered as an expertise, a skill for creating, for preparing something. It can be also a skill in guiding the people, guiding a nation. For example, in the book of Genesis, chapter 41, we have the encounter of Joseph with Pharaoh. The Pharaoh had a dream, a very disturbing dream, and he did not know what it meant. So finally, Joseph was invited to interpret the dream of the fat cows being followed by lean cows and fat ears of corn being followed by lean ears of corn. What did it mean? Joseph interpreted this dream as a God's revelation to the Pharaoh concerning the immediate future. There will be 7 years of plenty, which will be followed by 7 years of famine and need. So Joseph gave a final advice in chapter 41, verse 33. Now, therefore, let Pharaoh select a man who is discerning and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Discerning and wise. So that is the Hokmah, the Hakam, the wise man. A person who will lead the people out of famine. And this advice was acceptable to Pharaoh, and he tells Joseph in verse 39. Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has shown you all this, there is no one so discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only with regard to the throne will I be greater than you." So Joseph is the wise man. He is the wise man, and with his wisdom, he organized the country in such a way that they could overcome the 7 years of famine. So this also considered as wisdom. This can be shrewdness, being cunning. So various types of understanding of the wisdom, as skill, as being learned, as being cunning, as being shrewd, even able to cheat. So various shades of meaning for this work. And as far as wise men is concerned, people who are specially skilled in trade, people who have acquired certain special knowledge, also about life secret, they all could be called wise men. And one particular type of these wise men are the diplomats in the royal administration or civil administration of the country. We have an example in the book of Daniel. Daniel was among the people who had been deported to Babylon. The book of Daniel, chapter 1, verses 3 and following, we read, "The king commanded his palace master Ashpenaz to bring some of the Israelites of the royal family and of the nobility, young men without physical defect, and handsome, versed in every branch of wisdom, endowed with knowledge and insight, and competent to serve in the king's palace." So this is the word wisdom. Endowed with knowledge and insight is a person with wisdom. So the king is looking for young people who are wise, who are endowed with the wisdom for the civil service. And it seems the school of wisdom or wise men is somehow related to the royal palace. For the royal administration of the country, diplomatic relations with neighboring countries, and all that is to do with the ruling, governing of the country is related to this wisdom. And there had been schools where these people were trained in various branches of wisdom, and later on comes the universities where the knowledge is being imparted. Now, this wisdom is seen as God's gift. It is God who gives wisdom. The origin of wisdom is from God. In the book of Sirach, chapter 1, verse 1, we read, "All wisdom is from the Lord, and with him it remains forever. All wisdom comes from the Lord." Wisdom as such is a gift. And where does it begin? Again, the same book of Sirach, chapter 1, verse 14, "To fear the Lord is the beginning of the wisdom." This is the religious understanding of wisdom. Wisdom comes from God, and only those who fear God, only those who believe God, have the real wisdom. It is through wisdom that God creates the whole universe. The book of Job gives us a beautiful interpretation of this wisdom. It's God who creates and sustains and maintains the whole universe through his wisdom. Psalm 104, verse 24 speaks about God's creation through the wisdom. Now, wisdom is a gift. If wisdom is from God and fullness of wisdom is only in God, then wisdom is seen also as imparted to the mortals, the humans, as a gift of God. And this we have in the book of Kings, first book of Kings, a beautiful example of this gift being given. The context is this. Solomon succeeded his father David, and he considers himself as a young man, and he was a very devout person, dedicated to the service of Yahweh. Then, on a certain day, during his sleep, God appeared to him. God appeared to him in a dream and asked Solomon. Here I read from the first book of Kings, chapter 3, verses 5 and following. The Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and God said, "Ask what I should give you." And Solomon said, "You have shown great and steadfast love to your servant, my father David, because he walked before you in faithfulness, in righteousness, and in the uprightness of heart towards you. And you have kept for him this great and steadfast love, and you have given him a son to sit on his throne today. And now, O Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of my father David, although I am only a little child. I do not know how to go out or come in. And your servant is in the midst of the people whom you have chosen, a great people, so numerous they cannot be numbered or counted. Give your servant, therefore, an understanding mind to govern your people, able to discern between good and evil, for who can govern this your great people?" Solomon is asking for an understanding mind. It can be translated also as a listening heart. So, listening heart, that is what is wisdom. And God gave him. It pleased God that Solomon asked not for wealth or a great name or the life of his enemies, but wisdom. And God gave him unmeasurable wisdom. And he was the great man, greatest wise man of the Bible. Initially, Solomon was great in wisdom that comes from God. But gradually, he deviated from this wisdom. And his wisdom became a wisdom of the world. And still he continued to be a wise person. All the wisdom books are somehow related to King Solomon. So the wisdom of Solomon and the Kohelet is also considered as Solomon. Solomon, as the wisest person, is also standing at the root of the wisdom movement. And all the wise men relate themselves to the great wise King Solomon. Now, the traditional wise men have this advice to make. If you want to be happy, if you want to be wealthy and rich and long living, do one thing: be prudent, obey the commandments of God, and you will be always with the blessing of God. And God's blessing in the wisdom movement, wisdom literature, is seen as a long life, as plenty of wealth, health, and prestige in the society. So anybody who is obedient to God, anybody who is living a just life, will have all these blessings of God. That is the traditional understanding of the wisdom movement. But this traditional understanding is being challenged by other books like Job or Kohelet. The book of Kohelet or Ecclesiastes considers life from a secular perspective and finds everything is meaningless. A life that ends in death without any hope of a resurrection is a meaningless life. It is vanity. It is futile to live. So the Kohelet is giving advice: try to live a just life, but not expect too much from life. Job, on the other hand, is confronted with the reality, with the problem of the suffering of the just. Job presents the wisdom literature in a dialogue form, as a drama. And we are presented with a conversation, a dialogue between four people, Job and three of his friends. The just man, Job, is undergoing unspeakable suffering, and he doesn't know why this suffering. So the book of Job is presenting the problem of suffering that finds no meaning. So wisdom literature comes to this point without being able to give an answer to all the questions of human life. When we come to the New Testament, Jesus is presented as the incarnation of wisdom and the Logos, the Word of God. And Jesus speaks about truth, the mysteries of God revealed to the simple and humble people. When you come to the Pauline literature, we see the contrast between the divine wisdom and earthly wisdom. The earthly wisdom, that is often atheistic wisdom, denies God and leads people away from God and is not able to understand or accept. We come to the book of James that speaks also about wisdom. In the book of James, chapter 1, verse 5, we are given an advice. The advice is this: if any of you is lacking in wisdom, ask God, and who gives to all generously and ungrudgingly, and it will be given to you. So ask for the wisdom that starts from the belief in God and fear of God, and that leads to God and to life eternal.